thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us and share your thoughts on the future of higher education. Before we dive in, could you introduce yourself, share a bit more about your background and your experience?
Sure. My name is Father Joe Reilly. I've been working here at Seton Hall since 2002. Most of my life as a priest, 34 years at this point, has been in education. I taught at Seton Hall Prep for 7 years and then 23 years at Seton Hall now. So very comfortable in educational settings and very excited about the opportunity to speak with you today. So,
thank you so much. We're really excited to learn from your experience. As you know, we've been researching the future of higher education using strategic foresight. And with that, we would love to hear your view of the changes that are on the horizon. So it feels like the pace of change is just getting faster and faster. As you think of changes in technology and society, what trends do you see impacting higher education the most in the coming years?
I would say the first and foremost is probably artificial intelligence. I mean, it's something that's part of our worlds already. And really, it needs to be at the heart of what we're doing in higher education. So just earlier this year in January, the Vatican actually had a conference and then published a document about it. And the title of it was Wisdom Both Old and New. And so I think it's important for us moving forward that obviously AI is going to be part of our world, the world that we in general, but also the world of higher education. And I think it's our responsibility, particularly in higher education, and in our instance here at Seton Hall, in a more profound way, is to kind of make sure that this trend, or if you will, that's moving so rapidly in our society, is also done in a way that's helpful and not hurtful to the human person, because artificial intelligence would be something that's a functionality that helps us to kind of learn quicker and do things quicker. But human intelligence is a component of a dimension of a person, and try to see the person in his or her entirety. And so I think the ethical and moral considerations are important for us as we're taking this tool that's so much a part of our society already. How can we use it in a positive, uplifting way in the context of higher education? It can be as a teaching or learning aid for us, but it shouldn't, I don't think, replace in-person education. So it's a trend that needs to be kind of sort of carefully considered and appropriated or brought into the context of higher education in a way that's going to be helpful, demonstrably helpful, it has been already, but also in a way that's considerate of the whole human person and the context in which we learn as well. So AI is the first, I would say, online and hybrid learning as well would be an important part. You know, we all learned so many lessons from COVID, some of them kind of abrupt and very quick, but, some years later, we can see the advantages that it kind of forced us to embrace at that point. And I think for so many people, online education is going to be increasingly attractive for people for whom the traditional four-year college is just, it's beyond their reach, whether it's financially or in terms of time and investment as well. So that would be the second thing, I think. And then I think for us moving forward, having a focus on workforce preparation, that whether it's seeking partnerships with industry, within the industry, and helping students to kind of develop the skills that will give them opportunities in the workforce kind of more directly. And I think there's somewhat of a shift, at least for understanding and appreciation for the traditional four-year education. So I think giving students the opportunity to participate in continuing education here on campus or remotely is an important thing as well. And I think, this is something that's specific and particular here at Seton Hall, but I think it's important for us to realize that, yes, we want to help students develop their talents and abilities and give them technical skills, if you will, but at the same time, we're concerned for the whole person, so we want to give them the capacity for critical thinking, develop their emotional intelligence and adaptability alongside, if you will, that technical expertise that it's certainly education and higher education, which we're involved in, but at the same time, it's in the context of or contextualized within formation of the person, him or her, whatever their circumstances might be. And then I think finally the last is that, the world has become a smaller place for all of us for so many reasons. And I think helping students in the context of higher education to develop that global mindset, that it's not just, my little world in which I live or even the little world here at Seton Hall, but rather that there's a larger world beyond where we are. And we're so, as time has gone on, we're so much more increasingly connected with that world and have responsibility in the context of that world as well.
Absolutely.
And so I think, for us here at Seton Hall, but also in the context of higher education, to help students to develop kind of a proper, if you will, global mindset for learning. Just this morning, I was at a meeting with one of the faculty who was in India, and it's developing partnerships with other universities or industries outside of this local area, outside of the United States, to help the students here to develop a broader understanding of what education is, of what the human experience is, and what the contributions that they can make in those areas can be. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us.
Yeah. All of that is so fascinating, and the emphasis on fostering the individual in the society is so important. And with that, how does a university continue to foster innovation in their faculty and their students in this changing landscape?
Yeah, I think it's going to be such a critical situation for us moving forward to realize, put in a balance, if you will, between the human person and the individual and his or her life and gifts and everything, and helping them discover them, but actually at the same time realizing that life isn't static. The world has changed dramatically in the past number of years, but there's always an evolution, whatever. So I think it's trying to create a culture, if you will, of innovation where not stifling ideas, not stifling people in their curiosity, but rather providing them the freedom and the opportunity and the encouragement to engage with that curiosity. And sometimes that means going beyond what's comfortable, and whether that's the global experience, whatever. But even in the context of our own education, is just ensuring the curriculum that they're developing and that they're working through is something that's is engaging and helps them to kind of feel comfortable with if you will, with a sense of innovation.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was studying, there was a book we read, and the whole kind of subject matter was the notion of creative tension. You know what I mean? We think of tension necessarily as a off-putting thing or something we want to avoid, but there's a creative component to it as well. That change happens when there's friction, if you will, when there's lack of and I think developing a comfort within the students, and I think that's first modeled by those who are professors and part of the university community, where that creative tension can lead to innovation, can lead to discovery that may not have been possible if we were just kind of doing the same old. So I think there's always been that sense of what's possible or what can we do in the context of university, and I think that didn't stop. At a certain point, it's always kind of at the heart and the center of the university experience. And so providing that community and opportunity and that culture where those kind of questions and that kind of sensitivity and that kind of creative tension can be something that can be life-giving and inspiring for young students, I think it's an important component for us as educators.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With all those changes, inspiring that innovation, and you spoke a little about online learning and continual education. So given that, do you think universities will eventually need to reimagine the curricula that they currently have just to better prepare their students for professional success and to, like you said, just to prepare them to be a good global citizen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the spirit behind that is absolutely true. I think, that universities have to, there's a foundational component to it, but the relevance of university needs to be that it's kind of connected with and rooted in the society around it. So it's reimagining, but it's also, I think there's always been an evolving component to higher education and to the studies. And I think that, there's a naturalness to that process of evolution. Reimagining kind of thinks like, well, we're going to put this aside and look at something else. But the reality, I think, is maybe there's a more of a consistency or a continuum, if you will, of the evolution of the way that universities operate and the way that students are able to engage in the context of a university experience. And so that flexibility, I think, is an important thing. We learned that in a dramatic, kind of abrupt way with COVID. But I think that in addition to that, I think we're able to kind of, as I was saying in the beginning, look at how can we more lean into hybrid or online learning in a way that's not reactive, but rather proactive to the needs of students and the culture as well. And I think establishing, which Seton Hall does a very good job, but higher ed in general, establishing partnerships with industry and other universities so that, there's a resources in terms of the gifts and talents that you experience there, but also sometimes there's also a financial component where the industry can help support the educational enterprise as well. And, again, speaking from Seton Hall here in the Catholic higher educational experience, there's a phrase we use often, about the Catholic intellectual tradition. And that's really a broad grouping or gathering of intellect and intelligence, whatever, that is rooted in the faith and our understanding of the faith, but it's always with an engagement to the culture. You know what I mean? And that's happened from the beginning of the universities were founded in the context of the Catholic Church, that it wasn't just to impart faith, but it was to help people to engage with the culture around them.
Right.
So that the gifts and talents that faithful people bring and the young people bring can enliven and enrich the society. So it's that engagement, I think, which is an important thing. And I think that's coupled with the evolving nature of the curricula, I think is coupled with, that tried and true engagement with the culture. I think those two things, those two tracks running together, I think put us in a good stead, if you will, for the future, of higher education.
Absolutely. It's definitely on the horizon, and I love the emphasis of just an ever-evolving university. I think that's so important. And with that, universities, they do eventually need to balance the agility to adapt with academic success and, tradition. I know Seton Hall definitely has a lot of traditions. So what are some strategies that universities can implement to adapt?
Well, I think it's, first of all, acknowledging that, agility and change are part of human experience, part of institutional experience, and part of the livelihood or, the health of an institution as well. Right. So I think, again, going back to the whole thing about culture, is that creating a culture where it's not just we're doing this because we've done it, this is the way we've always done it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But rather, creating a culture where the notion of change and adaptability and agility, kind of a comfort in that thing can be part of the experience for everybody, and Seton Hall, as you said, has been here around for 170 years. And so I think, it's proven itself, whether there was fires early on in the history or the tragic fire in 2000, those were experiences that profoundly and dramatically affected the whole community, especially students. But it was the university's ability to come together first and then to find in the difficult situations, how can we continue to move forward? And I think it's that, that agility and that, willingness to keep moving forward. And as universities are, planning for the future, we're doing it here at Seton Hall, and every institution of higher ed across the country tries to work on establishing a strategic plan. So what are the priorities moving into the future, whether it's 1, 5, 10 years or whatever, how are we looking ourselves to be, and what are the resources that we need to kind of let that vision come forth? And, whatever that is, I think the strategic planning for our university, for any, it's founded on a vision where we want to be as a community, not one person's vision, but the community's vision. But at the same time, there's foundational values that help us to move in that direction in a way that's consistent with the history that we have. That's a common history. But at the same time, the desire and the shared experience that we have moving forward as well. Right. And those are some of the things I think that universities can try to do to kind of in a healthy way move forward.
Nice. Just to look at it from a larger scale, how can a university adapt to societal shifts and, just unforeseen circumstances and crises that may occur?
Yeah, well, I think kind of as a general principle, avoiding siloed thinking. There's like my little world is all there is, and I'm going to protect this or whatever. So it's creating experience which is founded on trust of individuals that we're all working for for one another and for the common good, so that when there are crises that evolve or that happen to a particular institution, that there's a willingness to see beyond, to trust the individuals that you're working with and standing next to. And I might not have the particular gifts or talents, but other people, I trust they have them as well. And so it's avoiding that silo of thinking and thinking not just for myself or an individual person or component branch of the university, but rather the whole university, what's for the common good. And then I think, much of the success at the university is here is that, strengthening our values as a Catholic university, the things that we hold tried and true. And I think some of the success that Seton Hall might have and other institutions of higher education would have, because they're leaning into those values, especially in time of difficulty and trial. And I think that is something that is true certainly here at Seton Hall. Our motto hazards that forward, but at the same time, I think it's true as a general principle for educational institutions, that when the times get tough, you lean into those things that are the foundation and provide support when so that you can continue to move forward in a positive way that's going to be life-giving, not just for the short term, but I think over the long haul as well. And with some of the difficulties in our society right now, even recently with regard to the government restrictions or kind of questioning higher education and some of the drawing back of financial resources for higher institutions of higher ed, or putting some of that into question, I think, it's important to realize that, the security of an institution, its soundness also has a financial component as well. So it's important to see that you're in good standing with the resources of the university, and I think that's an important consideration too.
Thank you. You spoke a little bit before about industry partnerships, and I'd love to learn more about your experience with that. A lot of our research has come to that conclusion that moving forward, a good way to support our students is experiential learning and working with industries in their field that they're looking for. So what strategies can we use to strengthen our partnerships with, industries or even local communities to, ensure economic development and social progress as a whole?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I think any institution doesn't exist as an island unto itself. Right. And the more success, the greater the success of an institution is, the greater the partnerships and the connections that they can have, as you mentioned, with local communities. Here at Seton Hall, it's being considerate of South Orange and how our presence in this local community can actually help to enrich the community. And I'm not just talking about tax money, but rather with the experience of human people, you know what I mean? And how can the offerings that we have here on campus and some of the programs that we run, how can they benefit the community as well? Some of that might be student teaching or other volunteer efforts or whatever. So it's recognizing that there's an interconnectedness between all of us as human persons. And I think universities can kind of be a lighthouse or a guidepost for that, to realize that, genuine human living, genuine human growing, genuine human education and formation is done in the context with connecting with other people who have shared interests or have a need that we can help to address or whatever. So that's I think the community component of it. The piece with industry, as we mentioned before, it's one way to provide opportunity for students, whether it's internships or just some kind of training or whatever. So there's a pathway when a student is studying business or law or whatever it might be, where they can move into or nursing, having had practical experiences. So it's a benefit for the institution itself. They're providing services, but at the same time, it's providing a pathway for a student to be able to find a future for him or herself in a way that's life-giving. And then the final thing, I think, just with regard to industry, as we mentioned before, is that realizing that the resources that industries have is a lot greater than universities. And so it's important to realize that the more partnerships we're able to form, the greater it's going to be for us in terms of resources, but the gifts that we can provide for those places as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I do have one final question, and it's about a topic that I'm sure is on everyone's mind. And you touched on it a little bit before, but I want to talk about AI and the rise of automation. It's definitely, changing rapidly, and it's touching every industry. And it's definitely going to, at least I think it's going to change the landscape of higher education as a whole. So how can universities, potentially mitigate these risks that come with, putting AI into their curriculum or, partnering with platforms, stuff like that, while continuing to evolve as a university and, maintaining sustainable life and, in the long term?
Yeah. I think it's a great question because it's an issue that every place is facing, and certainly issues of higher education. So I think the one thing that we can't do and ought not do is build a wall and say, this is not going to be part of our experience, because it already is, and we want to be able to see. So it's mitigating whatever those risks might be in a way that's going to be helpful and consistent with the values that are important for us. So like if in our instance, Seton Hall is concerned with educating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. So if that's the central value that we have, how is it that this new technology, this new resource, this new tool, if you will, is something that can help us in that? So again, it's not possible for us to say, well, it's not going to be part of our experience. But how can we incorporate it into our world in a way that's going to be life-giving and helpful? And again, like I was saying before, in the midst of the tension of not yet knowing what all the implications might be, in a way that we can help to kind of glean those positive things off of the top of it and try to mitigate some of the challenges or whatever. And again, I think some of it is a proper understanding of this tool, this resource. What is artificial intelligence, and what does it mean? And so it's in studying it genuinely and engaging with it in a real way. And then at the same time, in that engagement, seeing that we're not compromising the human person. So like we're not just using it as a tool or to treat other people or circumstances as objects for my own gratification or edification or climbing up a ladder, but rather in a way that can help the human family, it can help the individual person. And I think that's where, in our instance, as an institution of Catholic higher education, we have a great advantage and we have a great contribution to make in that regard. Absolutely. And so there's a saying in my room, I found it in my office rather. It's about the Annunciation. I'm sorry if this doesn't relate, but it just came to my head, so I'm going to say it anyway. It's about the Annunciation when the angel Gabriel came to Mary or whatever. And this author by the name of John Shea wrote this. He said, "The moment I said yes, I swam in rivers not of my own making. How little we know, how much we need to trust." And I think in some ways, the AI river is a river not of our own making, and we're swimming in it already. You know what I mean? And so we need to say yes, because the rest of society and because there's great contribution it can make to us as part of the human family and as young people seeking to get an education. But to a certain degree, there's still little we know. Yes. And so we need to trust this is a good, and how can we contribute to understanding this good in a better way and putting this good at the service of the larger community in a way that's helpful, not harmful.
Absolutely.
So that would be what I would say. It's a journey. Life is a journey of taking the wisdom from old and new, and AI seems to be new, so we're going to take it part of the wisdom experience, but we're also going to try to put it on top of or have it in sync with, aligned with the wisdom of old as well.
Absolutely.
So, and that's the grace of learning and education. Of discerning what's good and what's going to fit with that, and those things that do, we incorporate them, and those things that don't, we try to kind of see how they fit somewhere else.
Absolutely. There's definitely a responsibility to use it ethically as well.
Right.
And just to teach our students how to use it and to prepare them for the future that they're going into.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and along those lines, it's seeing that professors have the capacity to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We have definitely learned a lot from this conversation. It has been extremely beneficial to us, and we're grateful for your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicole. God bless you.
Thank you.